Welcome students of Form 2, 2A, 2B. Welcome to this video about tourism in the global village. Tourism in the global village. And we're still talking about regional factors impacting tourism. So we're talking about the Caribbean region and still a little bit about North America and South America. And specifically, we're talking about chapter 5, paragraph 2. So if you have the book and you're willing to take the book in front of you, that would be like a real plus because you know what I'm talking about then. Chapter 5, paragraph 2. And we're talking about outlining, so that's the behavior verb. And outlining what exactly is regional factors. So in the Caribbean, North America, South America, that have an influence, or in other words, that impact on the tourist industry. And in this video, we're going to talk about visa restrictions or visa freedoms and the possibilities of transport by air or by water, and what are the challenges there, what are the difficulties there, and how can we overcome them. So the cost of regional travel. Cost has to do with money. How much does it cost? How much does regional travel actually cost? And that is what this sheet is about. So when we look at that, the travel within the Caribbean region is challenging because the Caribbean countries are separated, separate, by sea, or in other words, they are separated by water. Yeah? When you look at the Caribbean, like you can see there, you see there's a lot of water, and perhaps you remember during the lessons, this is the Atlantic, A. This is not the Atlantic, you silly Mr. Fish. This is the Pacific. And this is the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean. And here we have the Caribbean Sea. But a lot of parts of the Caribbean consist out of water. So you cannot just ride towards another island or get a train or get a bus like in Europe or, for instance, in North America or South America. Everything is separated from each other by a lot of liters of water. So although travel is possible by water on yachts or by boats or cruise ships, often this is very expensive. Yeah, by cruise ship going to another island is very expensive. By yacht is only possible for the super rich, and going by boat is often very expensive. Like for instance, in the best islands like Saint Eustatia and Saba and Saint Martin, it's very expensive in those islands, the upper wind islands, to travel between those islands. It's possible, but it costs really a lot of money, and it's only possible for those who have more money or like really rich people. So although travel is possible by water on yachts, boats, and cruise ships, the fastest way of getting from one country to another is by air. So by using an airplane. But the challenge for regional air travel is making that affordable. Pagable, think papiamento. It's, it's cheaper than by yacht, it's cheaper than by cruise ship, it's way cheaper than going by boat, but it's still often, especially in the upper islands, St. Martin, Saba, Statia, and even going from Curacao to Aruba is still relatively expensive. Although it's like not a lot of kilometers, it's still pretty expensive. And I'm even talking about airlines within the Caribbean. It's becoming cheaper, and it is cheaper than it was before. But the challenge is still, how do we keep it cheap, and how do we keep it as cheap as possible? And affordable, think papiamento, the word would be pagable. Yes, so that's one challenge. One challenge of the Caribbean is the cost of regional travel, and also keeping it, making it as affordable as can be. So a number of regional airlines buy passengers between the islands. You have, for instance, Caribbean Airlines. From the Netherlands to Curacao, there's Corendon, TUI, KLM. KLM is more expensive, and the struggle, the challenge is there. How do we keep it as affordable as possible for people with all kinds of wages and salaries, and not only the segment that has more money? Travel within the region, so in the Caribbean, a little bit South America, a little bit North America, Miami, for instance, Florida, is important for people who need to travel because of their business. So business people who have like companies all around the Caribbean need to be able to travel within the Caribbean in an affordable manner, pagable. Yes, so we look at this region, the Caribbean, people want to travel in that region. And regional travel is important because it allows more places to benefit in the Caribbean, like you can see there, from tourism. Because if one person visits Curacao and it's affordable, they might visit Barbados or Trinidad or Aruba or Statia the next time. Because if they have a pleasant experience in the Caribbean, coming from Canada, coming from Western Europe, coming from the United States, they might try another island the next time. So if one tourist has a pleasant stay in Curacao, that also benefits Barbados or Jamaica or Aruba. International tourists might visit more than their own country because they have had a pleasant stay with one country, and persons from one Caribbean country might choose to visit another. Then the visa restrictions. This is a little bit more complicated. A visa, what is it exactly? Well, a visa, generally speaking, there are limited visa restrictions for people traveling within the Caribbean. That means different countries have made deals with each other, and it means that one passport gives more opportunities to stay in another country as long as you like than another passport. Like, for instance, you have strong passports and you have weaker passports. In other words, a visa is a conditional authorization. So conditional means like limited, granted by a polity to a foreigner, like for instance Curacao that gives to Americans, or Curacao that gives it to Colombians, that allows them to enter, remain, or leave its territory, but sometimes within a limited period of time. And each country has deals with other countries, but they differ per country. For instance, the Netherlands has a strong passport, but Iraq or China has a less strong passport. With a passport from Iraq or China, you cannot stay in each country for an unlimited period of time. So some passports from some countries are stronger, and some passports from some countries are weaker, dependent on the deals they made with other countries. Here you see it. The wider it is, the more powerful it is. It means you can stay for a longer period of time in another country, and sometimes even unlimited. And the more to the red zone you get, the less powerful your passport is. For instance, Saudi Arabia or Iraq or India have less powerful passports than China, but Russia has a more powerful passport. And Ukraine even more powerful. I don't know which country is like this green country, but Israel has a more powerful passport. Depending on where you live, your passport gives you a more profitable, a more beneficial visa to you, meaning that you can stay longer in the country or even unlimited period of time in the country, dependent on what deals your country made with other countries. So that is what a travel visa is. So generally speaking, there are limited visa restrictions for people traveling within the Caribbean. So you can stay there for a pretty long time, sometimes paying money. Yeah, but it also differs per country in the Caribbean, although the situation is always being reviewed. So sometimes the situation becomes better, but sometimes the situation becomes worse. It's under review. So sometimes the country makes better deals with other countries. Sometimes the new deals are worse than the deals that were before. They're being reviewed, you could say. Like here, for instance, Australian citizens can travel visa-free, so they can stay there unlimited in Venezuela. But for instance, people from the United States cannot stay in Venezuela unlimited because there are issues between the Venezuelan government and the American government. But when you have a passport from Australia, this gives unlimited visa-free opportunities, visa-free, because there are no diplomatic tensions, there are no governmental issues between Australia and Venezuela. But there are governmental issues between the United States and Venezuela. So this depends how strong your visa is, depends to the country you're traveling to, and if your government has issues with that other country or they made good deals. Yes. So freedom to travel within countries in the region without having to make separate visa arrangements make the idea more attractive. Yeah. So freedom to travel, in papiamento, nostra visa, libertad para viajar. Yeah. And how better the deal is of the Caribbean country with the European country or with the United States or with Canada or with Ukraine or with Venezuela, the more longer you could stay in that country, and perhaps the less you have to pay for your visa to stay in that country. So you have to pay less, and perhaps you can stay longer, and that is what a better visa is. Yes, libertad para viajar, freedom to travel, without having to make separate visa arrangements, paying money, your job, they have to prove that you work for a certain employer, have to show what's on your bank account, they have to show that you have enough money on your bank account. If you don't have to make those separate visa arrangements, you have more freedom to travel to that country. And it makes the idea, if that Caribbean country has a better visa without you having to pay a lot of money, without you proving having to have money on your bank account, without your employer giving you a document proving you have a job, this makes the idea more appealing. And appealing din papiamento significa appellativo. If you have a better word for me, let me know below. Yeah, because appellativo, I was searching for a word online, but I was not quite just finding the right word. Appellativo, appealing. If you have a visa from your country with less restrictions and more freedom to travel. Libertad para viajar. Yes? Well, I hope this video was very informative. If you want to subscribe, you can do it below. And if you're a student of mine, please look at the learning outcomes that you can find here. Outline regional factors that impact on the tourist industry. Remember, outline is more than just identifying and naming, but it's less than describing and explaining. But you do have to do it in a few, 3 or more full phrases. So if you study this paragraph, please keep the learning outcome in the back of your head. I hope you found this video very informative. If you want to subscribe, you can ring the bell below, so you'll be notified if I make new videos, and I will make quite a few of them the coming weeks. If you have questions, you can ask me during class or by leaving a message below. And for now, a very well meant goodbye, and I hope to see you very, very soon.